Tell me that isn't an amazing looking bike, but I think the most underrated bike in the pro peloton right now, which is a real shame, and I think the bike definitely deserved more of our attention. And some of the bikes I show you in this video from Trek and Wilier and others definitely get people more frothy, shall we say. But this bike is definitely it's up there, and the new paint scheme looks fantastic. So for context, I'm out here in Calpe, which is a mecca for pro cyclists through December and January because it's lovely weather, the roads are quiet and smooth, and it's perfect training. And it means you'll spot loads of pros out riding their bikes. I've seen Mathieu van der Poel and a load of other pros I don't really recognise. And if you're a bike geek like me, the mechanics, if you're very polite to them and ask them very kindly, will allow you to look at their bikes and even film them. So I'm going to share some bikes I've managed to film over the last few days. Quite a few teams have gone home sadly, but there are still plenty out here. So I'm going to share some cool bikes, and we'll start with Intermarché Wanty, and they kindly allow me to film 2 of their bikes. First up, the new paint scheme. I think it looks fantastic. I love a fade, and not the most original, I know, because Ineos Grenadier have done red and black before, but I think it looks better. I like the lightning flashes on the fork there and on the top tube, and then a sort of glitter fleck in the rear section of the frame. You can see the carbon fibre weave, what they call their C68 carbon layup in the paint there. That is really cool. So this is a Cube Litening, which is their Aero bike, as you can clearly tell from the Aero profiles of the bike. They also have a lightweight climbing bike. I'll show you that in a minute. So each rider has 3 bikes: an Aero bike, a lightweight bike, and a TT bike too. And this bike, as you can see, belongs to a certain green jersey winner. Definitely a star rider on the team. And it looks as aero as it gets. Big down tube there, that's massive. Big deep fork blades there. Very deep head tube in a way that's sort of sculpted into the top tube. And the seat tube hugs the rear wheel and rear tyre very closely. Drop rear stays, of course, and an interesting little sort of divot there into an Aero seat post. Not the thickest, most deep profile in the world there. And look at that for a handlebar stem. That is massive, that's girthy, that is. That's a really chunky, oversized stem. The mechanic told me the riders are happy with how stiff the bike is. Apparently it's really stiff, and the cockpit is very stiff as well, which the sprinters definitely want. So massive, massive, that is massive. I've not seen a massive stem like that in a long time. Fairly curved drops, out front computer mount. They are sponsored by Brighton for their computers. Shimano Dura-Ace Di2 group set, of course, with sprint shifters on the drops there for changing gear when in the drops, when smashing out the power in that final sprint. So, like I said, full Shimano Dura-Ace Di2, but with non-standard chainring sizes. So a 56/44. That is massive, with a Shimano power meter, dual-sided power meter there, and 1130 cassette on the back. And while the bike is clearly designed to be aerodynamic, the tyres are wide. These are 30mm wide tyres, and it seems wide tyres are here to stay in the pro peloton. Not the first bike I've seen this week with 30mm wide tyres. The giant Propel, I'll show you later in the video, also has 30mm wide tyres, which is also an Aero bike. So wide is the way forward for the pros. So if it's good enough for them, it must work for them, not slowing them down. Then it must be okay for us regular guys as well. And now we have the lightweight bike in the Cube range, the Litening Air. Air for climbing and being lightweight. And I'll weigh both bikes in a minute to see what they actually weigh and what the difference is between an Aero bike and a lightweight bike. But let's look at the bike in a bit more detail. And the difference to the Aero bike is quite stark, really, isn't it? It couldn't be more different if it tried. Very slender, very elegant tube profiles. Does remind me of a giant TCR, maybe the ASOS a bit, but a bit more Aero. We still have an Aero seat tube, an Aero seat post as well. But look how skinny the rear stays are. They are very, very skinny indeed. And the fork is also very slender. That's like a giant TCR, but flat on the back section there. That looks really nice. And a very skinny head tube, very slender top tube well, and a kind of square, oval square down tube. But it's still fully internal routing, so a one-piece carbon handlebar stem, and not as massive as the Aero one, but still pretty massive by other handlebar standards. So big, kind of central square stem section, quite bulbous around there, very narrow as well in the hoods, slightly flared in the drops, and a bit more round on the tops there. Does feel quite nice actually, and I like the bar tape all the way to the center when you're climbing like that. That feels really nice actually, I quite like that. So Pro logo bar tape, little Pro logo sticker there to keep the sponsors happy. Slammed, which I approve of, jokes. Aero seat post, and the Pro logo CPC technology saddle. So we have this sort of sticky material here to keep you planted, locked in place. And the race number is cable tied to the seat post. Not the most elegant solution, nor the most stable, but there we go. Wheels are again the same as on the Aero bike, but they are a shallower section, so the Stream A49 and an A54 on the back. Again, a mixed depth rim, so shallow at the front, deeper at the back, but similar construction and similar width as well. And again, they are 30mm wide tyres, so still fat tyres. Again, Shimano Dura-Ace DIT group set with slightly more modest chainring sizes, just a 54/40. It's still massive though. I don't think my legs could cope with that at all. And again, 1130 cassette out back. No UDH on these frames, no direct mount either by the looks of it. Again, very cool paint job. I like that kind of fleck in the back half of the frame, and that it's not really black actually. It's kind of a dark red to red fade. In the photos it looked black, but actually now with the bike a bit more closely, yeah, it's not black at all, is it? It's just really dark red up to a very light red around that area. Again, I like the lightning strikes on the fork there. So that is a pretty cool looking bike. Right, I think I found the best looking bikes in the peloton this year. The Van Rysel Roubaix team bikes. And let me show you. And the mechanic told me just now that each paint finish is unique. They're not the same, they are different. They look similar from a distance, but the process, I guess, they drop the frame in a big vat of paint, they come out different. So the swirls on the top tube and down tube are different on each one, which you can see. That is very different to that one there, which is different to that one there. So the same but different. That is really cool. Haven't seen that before. Big fan. The other bit that is the same, of course, is a stripe. That's a bit of a key feature now, isn't it, with the Van Rysel? The team replica I had a stripe down the front, and of course the Van Rysel on the down tube, and the same graphics on the rear stays down there, of course. So the team are using SRAM Force Axis group sets, 2x wireless hydraulic disc brakes with 160 rotors, although that rear rotor is definitely 140, which is unusual because Shimano always said 160 and 140, and SRAM are 160, 160, but they go on 140 on the back. And the chainring size is a 54/41 and a 10/30 cassette on the back, I think. So really cool. Not slammed though. Very sensible. So really cool looking bikes. Physique, 3D printed saddles across the board, different shapes, Antes, Argo, my personal favourite. Really like that saddle, and the same Data handlebar that I had on my test bike without front mount. So yeah, and the wheels, we have the Zip 404 Firecrest with a Michelin Power Cup 28mm wide tubeless tyre. So yeah, pretty cool setup, very cool indeed. So I found the Trek, Lidl Trek team. The men are still out training, riding, doing 6 hours, and Mads Pedersen doing 7 hours because it's the last day of training, so big miles before he goes home. But the women are back, as you can see. All women's bikes are here, and Lizzie Digning's bike's over there. But I found a bike they've allowed me to film. So the Gen 8 Trek Madone, as I rode at the launch last year in Spain, Still looks really cool with the ISOFlow, the hole in the seat tube for improved aero, they claim, and a bit more compliance. Comfort is definitely good on this bike when I rode it, and a seat mast there. And this saddle is definitely pushed right forward and nose down a bit as well. There are different seat mast options for setback and inline as you need. And the race number holder, they sort of glued it to the seat mast there. So that's a cool little detail. So group set on the bikes are all SRAM red axis, top of range of course, wireless shifting, hydro disc brakes. We have a 50-37 chain set and a massive 10-36 cassette. So good range, easy climbing gears and nice flat out stuff. And because it's sponsored by SRAM, they're using time pedals. And then rolling stock wheels and tyres, we have the Bontrager Airless, the RSL 37. So not the deepest wheel, sort of mid section, good all round wheel set with Pirelli P0 Race TLR RS. These are the fast tyres and they measure 28mm wide. So 28, pretty standard these days. And nice wide rim as well. These are hooked, not hookless. Nice smooth transition from the carbon to the tyre there. And the fantastic new, very ergo, super light lever action on the SRAM brakes. And one pro detail, you don't often see this, we have blips as optional shifters on the inside of the drops there. So they're sprinting, they have that option to change gear there, as you can see that. Then one piece handlebar and stem, of course, carbon fibre, K-edge out front mount and the Wahoo element bolt, a little diddy one. Very aero, very narrow, pretty slammed as well. The bike design around Aero water bottles of course, to save a few more precious watts. This bit here, this is an inner tube, don't often see inner tubes anymore. That's used for where the transponder goes, to stop scratching the frame. No other cool little quirky details, all very standard read. Race bikes all very standard these days. Tri-peak ceramic bearing hubs by the looks of it. So what do you think of the bike? Let me know by dropping a comment down below. Is it a bike, if you were a sponsored pro and you could choose a team to sponsor you, you would ride? I think I'd be happy riding the bike. It looks cool. Looks really cool indeed. Right, next up, the lovely Wilier Filante SLR belonging to the Groupama FDJ team, who, luck would have it, are staying in the same hotel I've been in all week. And there's a team truck. Mechanics been busy there all week and they've been really helpful when my bike had a mechanical when I arrived the other day, and very friendly and allowed me to film their bike. So let's have a look. First up, paint job. Yes, I like it. White with this detail along the top tube. Not really sure what it's all about, but it does look really cool. And sort of colour match fork, but a shame the handlebar stem isn't painted the same colour as a fork. I think that would look really cool. And taking the bike from an 8 to a 9 or even a 10. We've got white bar tape, which I approve of. Don't see enough white bar tape these days. It's definitely not a trend anymore. It was when I was racing 20 years ago. But it does need a white saddle really. White bar tape, but I forgive them. White bar tape, yeah, that's cool. So the entire team have been riding the Filante SLR this week. No sign of the Verticale, the lightweight bike in the Wilier range. So Filante for road, and they got a time trial bike for TT sessions as well. And one detail straight away that stands out are the tyres. Aero all the way, and we have the brand new Continental Aero 111 tyres with the grooves cut out into the tyre there that launched at Eurobike last year for marginal aero gains. And how long before amateur riders take a tyre cutter to their own tyres for more aero? And out back we have a Grand Prix 5000 STR, so 28mm wide front and rear. So on tyre width, most of the bikes I've been filming this week and seeing out and about here in Calpe are 28 or 30mm wide, so no sign of 26 or 25, 28 and 30. So they must clearly be happy with the performance of the wide tyres, no issues for them at all. And the team are still sponsored by Shimano, hence the Dura-Race Di2 group sets with the power meter, their dual side power meter, and chainring size, check 5440, very big, very standard in the Pro Peloton, and 1130 cassette out back. Look how clean that is, you can eat your dinner off that. Very clean. No whack chain though by the looks of it. So wheels on a bike are Mike. These are the Cleos wheel set, carbon fibre of course, and 15mm deep front and rear. So Mike is a wheel and component brand owned by Wilier. Long history, and they are trying to put the brand back on the map, as it were, and wheels on a pro bike are one way they are trying to do that. It's always interesting looking at the handlebars on pro bikes, and there are some interesting details here. Firstly, it's a one-piece carbon fibre handlebar stem setup that comes on the Filante. Very long stem on this one, as you can see, very long indeed. That's about 14 centimetres. For comparison, there is my iPhone 14 Pro. So yeah, massive. But see how many spaces there are. Most of the FDJ bikes have a healthy stack of spaces. Normally pro bikes are slammed. Slam your stem is the hashtag. Hashtag slam your stem. But not here. So either they've had a really good bike fit and they're actually setting the bikes up so they can ride them comfortably, or they're riding frame too small, like sizing down and then using spacers to get the stem handlebar where they want it and need it. Right, next up, the giant Propel as ridden by the team behind me. Let's have a look at the new bike. Not a new bike, been out for a few years now, but the new paint job they had for the bike this year, that's really cool. Might be one of my favourites. So unfortunately, it was almost dark by the time they allowed me to film the bike, so the camera really struggled with the low light, but we moved the bike inside, which definitely helped to really film the bike in all its glory. And what a bike it is. Now, the Propel isn't new by any stretch of the imagination. It's been out for quite a few years now, but it still looks good and it still looks up to date in my opinion. So this bike belongs to Alessandro De Marchi. He's quite a tall chap, as you can see by the amount of seat posts and the stem on his bike. Definitely a tall lad indeed. Saddle slam right forward in the rails and a very long stem. Sadly, didn't have my tape measure to hand, but definitely a 130 at least. So very long indeed, and quite a narrow handlebar. Not fully slam stem though, quite a few spaces to keep it at a reasonable height for his requirements. And then moving closer to the handlebar cockpit setup, we see with the Shimano Duro Di2, he has the optional shifter buttons on the tops. So when he's climbing or cruising along the top, so he can change gear. And tyre width, definitely an interesting topic here because the team have gone for wide tyres. Can you guess how wide? 30mm wide tyres from Cadex, the accessory brand by Giant. So 30mm wide tyres on Cadex C50 Max wheels. One small detail you don't see that often, but where all the rage a few years ago is a chain catcher to stop the chain falling off into the gap between the chain rings and the frame. So that's a little detail of note. And he's a tall chap, so he has 175mm crank arms, no 165 here. And again, 54-40 chainring sizes, so big chainrings, as you'd expect for a fast lad that he is. So yeah, very cool looking bike. Tamil tyres for extra points in my opinion. So definitely a good looking bike. The paint scheme and the bike setup I would happily ride and own. It looks really cool. And I bet it's fast as heck. But let me know what you think by dropping a comment down below. So the team told me that the riders had the choice of the TCR or the Propel, and down to them which they use. But lots of riders are using the Propel, which is understandable given how it's aero, more aero than the TCR, which doesn't really measure very well in winter testing. But it's not that heavy at all. So you're getting the aero with no real weight penalty, not compared to aero bikes of the past. So that makes a lot of sense really. It's not all World Tour teams here in Calpe. There are smaller Pro Conti teams as well, like this one here with Biscuit in its name, but some really cool looking bikes. The Cannondale Supersix Evo with a really cool paint job. I'm liking this sort of graphic around the head tube and this motive on the seat tube and these sort of graphics down here. Not really sure what the story is behind it. Not had time to find out, but it looks cool. Black, orange. And Mavic wheels. You don't see Mavic wheels much anymore, but here they are back in the peloton with Michelin tyres. And look, 30mm wide, and these are 28, so 28 and 30mm wide tyres, really wide tyres. That seems to be pretty standard these days, 28 and 30. So this is a high mod frame, size 54 right now, with the Momo design one-piece handlebar stem, which I do like. The nice looking design, out front computer mount, hood's really canted over, of course, a bit more aero. What other details have we got? Of course, a threaded bottom bracket, black bear, ceramic bearing down there. These are Ultegra group sets, so most of the World Tour teams have massive budgets, so Dura-Ace, SRAM Red, but low down in rankings, sometimes you have to be more savvy with your choices and save a bit of money. So these bikes have Ultegra Di2 group sets, which... So quick update, the mechanic told me the reason those bikes had Ultegra is that they are the training bikes. The race bikes have Dura-Ace, so Ultegra for the bikes they take home and trash around the local roads, and Dura-Ace when they're racing and fully supported. So Ultegra Di2 group sets, and they're sponsored by FSA, so an FSA K-Force carbon fibre crankset with a massive chainring. That's a big Aero chainring, and that is a size 55. Big chainring that is indeed. Looks kind of cool, doesn't it though? With the FSA Powerbox power meter. Not something you see that often these days really, but here it is on a pro race bike. Very slam stem, of course, looks good. Most of the bikes here are slammed, although that one has a very good size spacer. And there's a stock paint finish. Definitely a paint job I can see myself riding quite happily indeed. Now, what do pro bikes actually weigh? There's still a lot of buzz around weight and how much it matters or doesn't matter. So the Aero bike, size 56, with pedals, empty bottles and a computer, weighs 8.2 kilos on my travel scales, and the lightweight bike in the same size and same specification and same parts is 7.55 kilos, give or take a little bit. So yeah, both bikes are well over the U-size weight limit of 6.8. So really interesting to see what the bikes actually weigh in race trim, and whether you think that's too heavy, let me know by dropping a comment down below. So that has been a quick roundup of some of the pro bikes I've been able to see and film this week while on holiday in Calpe, working on my fitness and tan. It's definitely a place I recommend. You can get some great riding in, lovely roads, nice and quiet, and do some pro rider and bike spotting as well if you're into that. If you're not, doesn't matter, just ride your bike and enjoy the views and the mountains. So make sure to hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed this video. You want to see more videos like this on a regular basis. Drop a comment down below, let me know which of these bikes you would ride if you were a sponsored rider, and you could choose which bike to be sponsored by. And I'll see you again very soon, probably somewhere a bit less sunny and a bit less warm. But yeah, what a week it's been a fantastic week, and getting to see all these bikes up close, yeah, definitely a lot of fun. I really enjoy sharing the bikes, the kit, the equipment with you, so I hope you enjoy it as well.